The wind howled like a starving beast across the frozen plains of Varel 5. The twin moons glimmered, faintly through the drifting snow, casting pale light over the abandoned mining camp. Near the old metal fence, two shadows moved slowly, a woman and a small girl. Both covered in torn alien rags that once might have been bright and colorful. The woman's skin shimmered faintly with a violet hue, now dulled by dust and frost. Her daughter clung tightly to her hand, trembling, her tiny face hidden behind strands of silver hair. They hadn't eaten properly in 3 days. Every breath they took sent a small cloud of steam into the frozen air. The alien woman's name was Sura. Her daughter was Lyra, barely 6. Once, they had a family and a home in the southern colonies. But when the human wars spread across their system, everything burned. Sura fled with her child, believing that maybe, somewhere, among the same humans who destroyed her world, there could still be mercy. Now, that belief was breaking under the cold. Sura spotted a light ahead, a small human shelter. Maybe a trader's outpost or a scavenger's home. Smoke rose weakly from its chimney. The warmth looked like a dream. She hesitated, clutching her daughter. "Stay close, Lyra," she whispered. "Don't speak unless I tell you to." Lyra nodded silently, her teeth chattering. Sura gathered the last of her strength and knocked on the door. There was silence. Then a voice, deep, rough and human, shouted, "Who's there?" Sura swallowed hard. "Please," she said through the crack, her voice shaking. "We need warmth. Just one night inside. My child is freezing." The door opened halfway. A tall human stood in the light, wearing a worn brown jacket and heavy gloves. His eyes were cautious, suspicious, the eyes of someone who had seen too many desperate strangers. His name was Elias Ward, a human engineer left behind after the evacuation. He looked at the alien woman and her child. His expression hardened. "No refugees here," he said flatly. "Move along. There's nothing for you here." Sura's voice broke. "Please, I'll do anything. Just one night, just warmth for my daughter." Elias started to close the door. But Sura suddenly stepped forward, holding Lyra's small hand up toward him. Her violet eyes glistened with tears. "Take her," she said hoarsely. "She's strong. She can serve, she can work. I just need a blanket for tonight." Elias froze. For a long moment, there was only the sound of the wind outside and the girl's soft, confused whisper. "Mama?" Sura's knees trembled. "Please," she said again, barely able to speak. "One night's warmth. You can have her." Elias stared at them, speechless. He had seen many terrible things in the war, soldiers, hunger, betrayal, but this broke something inside him. He looked at the child. Her small hands were blue from cold, her eyes wide with fear. And yet, she did not cry. "Damn it!" Elias muttered under his breath. He opened the door wider. "Get in. Both of you." Sura blinked, not understanding. "Both?" "I said, get in before you freeze to death," he said, his voice rough but not cruel. Inside, the cabin was warm, small, and cluttered. A single heater glowed red in the corner. Elias shut the door and threw another piece of scrap wood into the fire. Sura stood still shaking. Her daughter ran to the fire instantly, stretching out her tiny hands to the warmth. Tears rolled down her cheeks, vanishing into the steam of her breath. Elias watched them silently. "Sit," he said. Sura obeyed, her head low. "Thank you, human," she whispered. He frowned. "Don't thank me yet." He poured 2 cups of warm broth from a metal pot and placed them on the table. "Eat," he said. Lyra took the cup with trembling hands. She sipped it greedily, coughing as the warmth reached her throat. Sura didn't touch hers. She only watched her daughter, her eyes filled with relief and guilt. Elias leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You really would have given her away?" For a blanket? Sura's eyes met his. For her life, she said softly. You humans took everything from us. But you also have the fire we do not. I thought maybe that fire could keep her alive. Elias didn't reply. The fire crackled between them. After a long silence, he sighed. You can stay tonight. Tomorrow we'll see. Sura lowered her head. I understand. But as she tucked her daughter beside the fire, she glanced back at the human. Something in his eyes, a shadow of pain, of loneliness, told her this story was not going to end the way she expected. Outside, the storm howled louder, burying the last footprints that led to the cabin. Inside, 3 souls, human and alien, shared warmth neither of them understood yet, and somewhere deep within Elias's heart, an old forgotten emotion began to stir again. Compassion. Morning came slowly on. Virel 5. Pale sunlight leaked through the cracks in the cabin walls, painting stripes of gold across the floor. The storm had quieted, but its echo still whispered outside. A world frozen, silent and merciless. Elias Ward sat by the table, sipping black coffee from a dented tin mug. His gaze was fixed on the alien woman and her child sleeping near the fire. The girl, Lyra, was curled in a blanket, her small face peaceful at last. Her mother, Sura, sat upright against the wall, still half awake, as if afraid to let herself rest too deeply. Elias hadn't slept either. The words from last night kept replaying in his head. Take her. She can work. I just need a blanket. He'd seen desperation before, but never something so raw, so hopeless, that a mother would offer her child just to survive another night. He stared at the flame. You're a fool, Elias, he muttered. You don't have food for yourself, and now you've got 2 more mouths. Sura's soft voice broke the silence. You didn't have to let us stay. Elias looked up. She was awake now, her violet eyes clearer in the morning light. The color of her skin seemed gentler by the fire, her features delicate, but strong. Despite her exhaustion, there was a quiet dignity in the way she held herself. Didn't plan to, Elias said gruffly. But your kid would have frozen out there. Sura nodded. Then I owe you her life. Keep your debts, he said. I don't collect them. For a while, they didn't speak. The fire cracked softly. Lyra stirred and opened her eyes, blinking at the sight of Elias. When he offered her a small piece of dried bread, she hesitated, looking to her mother first. Sura gave a faint nod, and the girl took it with both hands. Elias couldn't help but smile. She's got manners. That's rare these days. She's all I have left, Sura said. Her voice wavered slightly. Her father was taken during the evacuation. I don't know if he's alive. Elias didn't answer. He stood and walked to the small window, looking out at the white desert. Not many make it out of the evacuation zones. I didn't. Sura tilted her head. You were a soldier? He hesitated. Engineer. I built things for them, generators, drones, field shelters. When the army left, they left me too. She studied him quietly. Then maybe you were meant to stay. Elias gave a dry laugh. That's one way to look at it. Later that morning, he helped Sura fetch water from the frozen stream nearby. The path was slippery, the cold biting their faces, but she kept pace with him, refusing to show weakness. Elias noticed the scars along her arms, thin, white lines that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. They looked like burn marks, yet there was something unnatural about them. Those from the war? He asked. Sura looked away. Punishment. My people didn't forgive me for leaving the colonies. For trying to survive? He said bitterly. Sounds familiar. They returned to the cabin carrying buckets of half-frozen water. Lyra waited by the fire, trying to help by arranging bits of wood. When she saw them, she smiled shyly at Elias, a small, hesitant smile that somehow warmed the whole room. Good job, kid. Elias said, ruffling her hair. "You'll make a better firekeeper than me." Sura watched him with quiet curiosity. Humans, she'd been taught, were ruthless and greedy, destroyers who took what they wanted and gave nothing in return. Yet this man, rough and guarded as he was, had offered them warmth, food, and safety without asking for anything. That night, after dinner, Lyra fell asleep quickly, curled up under Elias's thick jacket. Sura sat near the fire, her eyes distant. "You could have turned us away," she said softly. "I almost did," Elias replied. "Would have been easier." "Then why didn't you?" He stared into the flames. "Because I remembered my sister. She died in the first winter after the war. Starved before I could find her shelter. I still see her face sometimes. When it gets cold like this." Sura's expression softened. "I'm sorry." He shrugged. "You're not the one who left her behind." Silence filled the cabin again. Only the wind outside and the crackle of fire dared to speak. After a while, Sura said quietly, "Humans and my kind. We were never meant to understand each other. But maybe pain is the one thing we both share." Elias looked at her, surprised by the honesty in her tone. "Maybe," he said. "Pain and stubbornness." Sura smiled faintly. "That too." She stood to adjust the blanket around her daughter, but her legs trembled. Elias caught her arm before she could fall. Their eyes met, hers shimmering like liquid silver, his weary and human but kind. For a brief moment, neither spoke. The firelight flickered between them, painting strange shapes on their faces, two beings from different worlds. Standing close enough to feel each other's warmth, Sura finally whispered, "Thank you, Elias Ward." He let go slowly. "Get some rest, Sura." As she lay down beside her daughter, Elias turned back to the window. Outside, the night was calm now. But far on the horizon, faint lights flickered, movement, maybe, or distant machines. He narrowed his eyes. Something was out there, and in that quiet moment, a thought struck him, that maybe taking them in wasn't an act of kindness after all. Maybe it was fate's cruel setup for something far bigger. The next storm on Virel 5 wouldn't come from the sky. It would come from men. The third dawn on Virel 5 came heavy and gray. The clouds hung low, swallowing the pale suns, and the air outside smelled like iron and frost. Elias was already awake, standing near the window, staring at the strange lights flickering beyond the ridges. They weren't storm lights. They moved too steadily, too intelligently. Patrol drones, he thought grimly. And not human ones. Behind him, Sura stirred quietly. She'd slept little. Every sound in the night had made her twitch. Now she watched Elias in silence, noticing the tension in his shoulders. He was alert, like a man who'd lived too long on the edge of danger. "You saw something," she said softly. He nodded. "Scouts, could be raiders. Could be worse." Her violet skin paled. "They found us," Elias turned. "Who?" Sura pressed her lips together, hesitation flickering in her eyes. For 2 days she'd said almost nothing about why she and her daughter had been wandering the wastelands. But now the truth pressed against her ribs like a blade. "They're called the Corven Guard," she said. "They hunt those who break the colony's bond laws." "Bond laws?" Elias frowned. "What kind of laws are those?" "The kind that decide who lives and who dies," she whispered. "My people. We are bred to serve the collective. Every worker, every female, is property of her caste. When the mines were failing, they began trading bodies for rations. I refused. I escaped. They called it treason." Elias's jaw tightened. "So they want to take you back." Sura shook her head slowly. "Not take, erase. They erase the bloodline, the mother and the child." Elias swore under his breath. "Hell." Lyra, half awake, blinked up at them. "Mama," she murmured. "Are we going to run again?" Sura rushed to her side and smiled gently. "No, my little star. Not this time." Elias turned away, hiding his thoughts. He wasn't a hero. He'd told himself that 1,000 times. The war had taken that out of him long ago. But now this woman and her child were in his home, and he couldn't shake the image of that first night, the mother offering her daughter for warmth. That kind of desperation didn't deserve another cold death. He walked to a metal chest near the wall and pulled it open. Inside were old human weapons, a plasma cutter, a pulse rifle, a battered helmet. He hadn't touched them in years. His reflection stared back from the dull metal, older, angrier, lonelier. "Can you fight?" he asked. Sura's gaze hardened. "I fought my way across 3 sectors with my child. I can fight." "Good," Elias said. "Because if those things are coming this way, we'll need to move before dark." By noon, they were packing what little they had: dried food, a heat cell, water filters. Lyra helped by carrying small items in her arms, her face serious, pretending to be brave. Elias watched her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. She reminded him too much of his sister when she was small, the same stubborn light in her eyes. "Where will we go?" Sura asked as she tightened the strap of her worn cloak. Elias pointed toward the east. "There's an old transport tunnel under the cliffs. Humans used it before the collapse. If we can reach it, maybe there's still a power core down there. Shelter, at least." Sura looked at him curiously. "Why help us, Elias Ward? Your people would call me an enemy." He met her eyes. "Maybe I'm just tired of enemies." The words were simple, but something in his tone made Sura's chest tighten. For the first time, she saw past the roughness, into the loneliness that lived behind his calm eyes. This man had lost everything too. They left the cabin before sunset. The snow had stopped, but the wind carried whispers of metal wings. Elias led the way, his rifle slung across his back, his boots crunching on the icy ground. Sura followed close, Lyra between them, holding both their hands as they crossed a ridge. Elias froze. In the valley below, lights moved in a slow formation, 6 glowing orbs sweeping across the terrain. "Searching drones." Sura single quotes S breath caught. "They're closer than I thought." Elias scanned the horizon. "We cut through the canyon. It'll block their sensors." They moved quickly, slipping between the frozen rocks. The canyon walls rose high and narrow, shadows swallowing them whole. Lyra clung tighter to Sura's hand, her small heart pounding. Halfway through, a sound echoed, a deep mechanical hum, growing louder. "Down!" Elias hissed. They ducked behind a boulder as a drone passed overhead, its spotlight slicing through the dark. The beam hovered, searching. Sura held her breath, clutching Lyra against her chest. Elias gripped the rifle, ready to fire if he had to. The beam swept away, then stopped. Elias's pulse quickened. The drone turned back, scanning the rocks. He aimed carefully, waited until it was close enough to see the faint shimmer of its energy core, and fired. The pulse blast hit dead center. The drone exploded in a burst of sparks, tumbling into the canyon floor. Lyra gasped softly. Sura grabbed Elias's arm. "Now they'll know where we are." "I know," he said, already moving. "That's why we run." They sprinted through the canyon, boots slipping, breath steaming in the cold air. Behind them, distant lights flared. More drones coming fast. By the time they reached the end of the canyon, darkness had swallowed the world again. They stumbled into a hollow under a cliff, half collapsed, with rusted machinery scattered across the ground. Elias checked his scanner. "Here, the old transport lines beneath us." Sura looked exhausted, but determined. "Can we reach it?" "Yeah," he said, kneeling beside the hatch and prying it open. "If the tunnels haven't caved in, we can hide there for a while." Lyra tugged his sleeve. "Mr. Elias?" He glanced down. "Yeah, kid?" She looked up at him, eyes wide and scared. "Will the bad ones hurt you too?" He smiled faintly, brushing snow from her hair. "Not if I hurt them first." Sura's heart twisted. She wanted to speak, to tell him he didn't have to risk himself, but before she could, a distant metallic roar shook the air. The drones had found the wreckage. They were coming. Aaliyah shoved the hatch open and motioned them inside. "Go, now!" Sura jumped down, pulling Lyra with her. The tunnel below was dark, deep, and cold, but it was safety for now. Elias followed last, sealing the hatch above them. The sound of engines thundered above. And then the world went silent again, dot in the darkness. Lyra's small hand found Elias's, and for the first time, he realized this wasn't just about saving them anymore. He needed them too. The metal hatch slammed shut above them, sealing out the freezing wind and the world of pursuit. Darkness swallowed everything, thick and heavy, broken only by the faint blue glow of Elias's wristlight. The tunnel stretched ahead like the throat of some ancient beast. Ribs of steel arching overhead, long forgotten by both humans and aliens. The air smelled of rust and old oil, and every echo of their footsteps seemed to carry a whisper from the past. Sura held her daughter close. "What is this place?" Elias crouched, brushing dust off a faded symbol on the wall, the insignia of the United Human Colonies. "Transport route," he said. "Back before the war, they used these tunnels to move refugees and supplies underground. I built some of them myself. You built this?" Sura asked, her eyes reflecting the pale light. He gave a dry laugh. "I built the walls that failed to protect us." They walked in silence for several minutes. The tunnel was colder than the surface, but safer, at least from the eyes in the sky. Elias scanned the walls occasionally, searching for energy lines. "If the emergency grid still works, we might get some heat," he murmured. Lyra's voice broke the silence. "Mama, I hear singing." Sura frowned. "Singing?" The child pointed toward the darkness ahead. A faint hum vibrated through the tunnel. Not music, not exactly, but something soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat buried under metal. Elias followed the sound, raising his light. "Stay behind me." The corridor opened into a wide chamber. Machines lined the walls, silent and dust-covered. At the center stood a cylindrical pod, cracked but still faintly glowing, its glass smeared with frost. Strange runes glimmered on its side, both human and alien script fused together. Sura's breath caught. "That's impossible." "What is it?" Elias asked. She stepped closer. "A biosync core, Forbidden's technology, built to merge alien neural code with human data systems. The collective outlawed them centuries ago." Elias frowned. "Then why is there one here, on a human base?" "Because your kind tried to perfect it," she whispered. "To create something that could bridge our species. Or destroy both." He circled the pod slowly. "It's still active. Power cells are humming." As he spoke, the glass flickered, once, twice, then the chamber filled with a low, pulsing light. Sura grabbed Lyra's arm and stepped back. "Don't touch it." But Lyra didn't move. She was staring at the pod, eyes wide, pupils glowing faintly silver. "Lyra?" Sura's voice trembled. The girl whispered something, a word neither of them understood. The light from the pod responded, pulsing in rhythm with her voice. Elias's heart skipped. "What the hell?" A spark of energy burst from the base of the machine, crawling up the walls like living lightning. Elias grabbed the girl, pulling her away just as the pod released a deep, mechanical sigh, like an exhale from something. Waking after a long sleep, the lights dimmed again. Silence. Then the voice came. "Unit recognized. DNA synchronization incomplete." Elias spun around. The words echoed through the speakers in the walls, distorted but unmistakably human. "It's still online," he muttered. Sura's eyes filled with fear. It shouldn't know her. He turned sharply. What do you mean? She hesitated, trembling. Because she was never meant to exist. The words hung heavy in the cold air. Elias stared at her. Explain. Sura knelt, holding Lyra close. When I escaped the colonies, I was already carrying her. But she wasn't conceived naturally. My caste was part of a breeding program. They were testing hybrid embryos, trying to combine alien adaptability with human cognitive DNA taken from prisoners of war. Lyra, she's the result. Elias's breath froze in his chest. You're telling me your daughter is half-human, Sura finished, her voice cracking. They called her an anomaly. The collective ordered every hybrid destroyed. I ran before they could take her. The air felt heavier now. Elias looked down at the little girl, her eyes shimmering with that silver light, faint but alive. She looked back at him, innocent and frightened. She's not dangerous, Sura said quickly, her voice desperate. She's just a child. Elizin knelt beside them. I know. He placed a hand on the girl's shoulder, steadying her. But that's why they're hunting you, not for escape. For what she is. Sura nodded, tears welling. They'll never stop. If they find her, they'll tear her apart just to see how she works. Elias stood slowly, his face set in grim determination. Then they won't find her. He moved to the control panel beside the pod and began tapping on the cracked screen. If this place still has an uplink, I can trigger an old relay signal, fake a radiation leak. It'll mask our location for a few hours. Sura wiped her tears. You can do that? I designed the failsafes, he said with a faint smirk. Let's hope I was smart enough back then. The hum of the machine changed pitch. The walls vibrated gently, lights flickering back to life along the tunnel, dim but steady. Warmth began to seep into the air, chasing away the cold. For the first time in days, Lyra smiled. It's warm again. Elias looked at her, something soft flickering behind his eyes. Yeah, kid, warm. But deep inside, a storm of thoughts raged in him. Half human. Half alien. The very kind of being the war was fought to prevent. And yet, she was just a little girl who wanted to live. He turned away, hiding his expression. We'll rest here tonight. Tomorrow we move before they track us again. Sura nodded, exhaustion pulling her down beside her child Dot as the two of them drifted into uneasy sleep. Elias sat by the flickering lights, staring at the old pod. Somewhere inside, wires still hummed faintly, as if the machine recognized something in Lyra that even Sura didn't fully understand. Elias reached out, touching the cold metal. The whispering hum shifted again, almost like words forming from static. Subject link, incomplete human source detected. His blood ran cold. The machine wasn't just reacting to Lyra. It was reacting to him. The low hum of the biosync core pulsed through the tunnel. Faint and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of something half alive. Elias sat against the wall, staring at the glowing runes on the machine. His reflection blinked back from the frost-streaked glass, fractured and uncertain. Subject link, incomplete human source detected. The words wouldn't leave his head. Human source. He rubbed his temples, trying to push away the rising unease. The machine must have been malfunctioning. Decades of cold, rust, and isolation could scramble any sensor. That had to be it. And yet, the voice had sounded sure. Sura stirred beside the dying fire. You haven't slept. Elias looked over. Hard to, with this thing whispering all night. She followed his gaze to the pod. Its light was dim now, but still breathing. It's reacting to you, she said quietly. He forced a laugh. Machines don't react. They read signals. Then it reads something from you, she replied. Maybe the same thing it saw in my daughter. The word daughter hit him harder than expected. He turned away, staring into the dark. You said she's half human. made from genetic data the collective stole. That data could have come from any prisoner. Thousands were taken. Sura shook her head. No, only a few survived the experiments. They needed strong DNA, people who could resist hybrid rejection. Elias frowned. Strong DNA? She hesitated, then opened her small satchel. From it, she pulled a cracked tablet, alien make, flickering faintly. With trembling fingers, she brought up a file. The screen showed rows of symbols and gene markers. And a name, written in human script. Ward E. Elias froze. That's yours, Sura whispered. You were one of the templates they used. His stomach dropped. The sound of his pulse roared in his ears. That's impossible. I was an engineer, not a soldier, not. You were captured, she said softly. During the siege of Tyros Station. I remember the records, a human with advanced biodesign clearance. They said your DNA showed abnormal resilience to hybrid code corruption. They copied it before you escaped or were released. Elias sank to the floor. His memories blurred. He remembered Tyros, the explosions, the pain, the months he couldn't recall after the war. The missing time. The medical scars he could never explain. Lyra stirred in her sleep, and the faint silver glow returned to her eyes. The biosync core pulsed in rhythm with her breathing, answering her without words. Sura's voice trembled. You see now? She isn't just half human. She's your blood. Elias looked at her, then at the small girl curled beneath his coat. My blood? She carries part of you, Sura said. The part they tried to erase. He couldn't breathe. The tunnel seemed to close in around him. For years he'd thought of himself as a survivor, just one more broken man left behind by war. But now, sitting in the dark beside an alien woman and a child made from pieces of himself, he realized he wasn't just part of the past. He was the cause of it. The machine hummed louder, as if feeding on the truth. Blue light crawled along its sides, forming new symbols, a sequence Elias recognized from his engineering days. Access keys. The core was unlocking something. What's it doing? Sura asked. Elias rushed to the console. It's syncing to me. The old human protocols are recognizing my biosignature. Can you stop it? He hesitated. I don't know if I should. Before Sura could reply, a harsh noise echoed through the tunnel, metallic scraping, followed by the thud of heavy boots. Her eyes widened. They found us. Elias killed the wristlight. Get behind the core, now. Lyra woke, frightened, as shadows moved at the far end of the tunnel. Dim lights bobbed closer, the cold glow of Corven visors. Sura clutched her daughter. There's too many. Quiet, Elias whispered. He pressed his palm against the control panel. The core's hum shifted, deepened. The machines along the walls flickered to life, their dormant sensors waking for the first time in decades. The lead guard's metallic voice rang out. You are harboring a fugitive genetic hybrid. Surrender her, and we will end you quickly. Elias's jaw tightened. I've heard that promise before. He tapped a final command. The old transport grid screamed awake, blue light racing across the floor like lightning. Energy surged through the tunnel, lifting dust and debris in a violent gust. The guards shouted, raising their weapons. EMP! EMP! The blast hit. The entire tunnel flared with white light. Circuits fried, armor shorted, visors went dark. The Corven collapsed in a storm of sparks and smoke. Sura shielded Lyra as the wave passed. When it ended, the silence returned, heavy and absolute. Elias staggered, his vision swimming. The core flickered weakly, its glow fading. He'd burned its last reserves. You saved us, Sura whispered. He shook his head. No, I bought us time. From somewhere above, faint mechanical whirs echoed down, more drones closing in. He turned to her. You said the tunnels go deeper? She nodded. Old maps show a second chamber below. But it's sealed, then we unseal it. He looked down at Lyra, whose silver eyes shimmered faintly in the dark. She's the key. That core was reacting to her, and to me. Whatever it's hiding, she can open it. Sura's voice trembled. And what if what's hidden should never be opened? Elias met her gaze firm. Then we'll decide that, not them. He lifted Lyra into his arms. You ready, kid? She nodded sleepily. Will it be warm down there? He smiled faintly. Maybe warm enough for all of us. Behind them, the flickering core released one final whisper, faint, almost human. Connection established. Lineage protocol initiated. The tunnel walls trembled long after the EMP faded. Sparks flickered in the shadows, smoke curling like breath from an invisible beast. Elias steadied himself against the wall. The metallic taste of ozone thick on his tongue dot above them. Muffled sounds echoed. More patrols, more machines hunting. They didn't have long. Down here, Sura whispered, pointing to a rust-covered hatch half buried under debris. Ancient human markings glowed faintly around its edges. Authorized personnel, only biosync access required. Elias ran his fingers over the words. It's a security seal. The core upstairs wasn't just a power unit, it was a lock. Sura nodded, clutching her daughter close. Then we need her. Lyra blinked sleepily, her small hands glowing faint silver again. Elias knelt before her. Hey kid, remember the humming machine? She nodded. It likes you, he said gently. I need you to touch this door, just like you did the pod. Lyra hesitated, looking to her mother. Sura's voice softened. It's okay, my star. We trust him. The girl placed her palm on the cold metal. The moment her skin met the hatch, light exploded along the edges, lines of blue racing outward like veins coming alive. The old door shuddered, grinding open with a sound that hadn't been heard in decades. Warm air rushed from below. Elias blinked. That's oxygen filtered. The system's still running. They descended carefully down the narrow staircase into a vast chamber, larger than any surface shelter. The walls were alive with machinery, glowing panels, humming conduits, and massive glass tubes filled with faint golden light. In the center stood a single raised platform, surrounded by holographic projections that flickered on as they entered. Welcome, Project Lineage, said a calm, human-sounding voice. Sura stiffened. It's human. Elias stepped forward. AI construct. I designed similar ones before the war. The hologram stabilized, the face of a woman, ageless and composed, dressed in the old insignia of the United Human Colonies Bio Division. Identity verified, the hologram said. Elias Ward, Chief Engineer, Biointegration Initiative. Elias froze. Chief, what? Sura's eyes widened. You were one of them. He shook his head slowly. No, I worked on habitat systems, not genetics. Correction, the eye said smoothly. Your clearance was reassigned during Operation Reunion. Your DNA became the foundation for Phase 3 hybrid trials. Lyra's small hand slipped into his. Mr. Elias? He looked down at her, his throat tight. I didn't know, kid. I swear I didn't know. Sura stepped closer to the hologram. Why did you create her kind? Why mix us at all? The I-us expression never changed. Because extinction was certain. Neither human nor alien DNA could survive long-term radiation mutation. Integration offered continuity. Continuity? Elias said bitterly. You mean replacement. Evolution, the AI corrected. Your species refused unity. So we built it. Sura's breath caught. Built it? Project Lineage was designed to birth a generation immune to division. Human empathy woven with alien resilience. Only one subject survived full synchronization. The hologram's eyes shifted toward Lyra. Subject 01. Hybrid female. Age 6 cycles. Cognitive link incomplete. Sura instinctively stepped between the AI and her daughter. She's not your experiment. Incorrect, the voice replied calmly. She is the bridge. Elias's fists clenched. If she's the bridge, why hunt her? Because she woke too soon, the AI said. Her neural pathways could destabilize if exposed to conflict. The collective seeks to destroy what they do not control. Humanity abandoned the project. Only I remained to protect it. Elias stared at the glowing face. Protect? You call this protection? You let her mother wander through hell. For the first time, the hologram flickered, as if the accusation shook something inside its code. Parameters limited. My reach ended when communications ceased. I could only wait. Lyra tugged on Elias's sleeve again. The voice feels sad. He looked at her, then at the AI. You can feel her? The girl nodded. She's lonely. For a long moment, the chamber hummed quietly. The hologram's light dimmed. That is accurate. Sura's face softened despite herself. Then help us. Hide us. The eye turned toward Elias. Your signature allows full activation of the lineage protocol. Together, your DNA and hers can stabilize the network. If you consent, I can shield this facility indefinitely, but once triggered, it cannot be undone. You will not leave. Sura stared at him. If you stay, you die here. He exhaled slowly. If we don't, they find her and she dies out there. Lyra looked between them, frightened. Are they coming? A tremor shook the walls. Somewhere above, explosions echoed, the sound of drones breaching the upper hatch. They're already here, Elias said grimly. He turned to Sura. Take her deeper into the storage chamber. I'll hold the entry. Sura grabbed his arm. You can't fight them all. I can delay them, he said, forcing a half smile. And finish what I started years ago, the right way this time. The hologram's light flared brighter. Authorization required to initiate defense matrix. Elias placed his hand on the console. Then let's wake the old world. Energy surged through the room. The walls came alive with ancient machinery, glowing shields and rotating turrets, once designed to defend against invasion. As he worked, Sura pulled Lyra back toward the rear corridor. The little girl looked over her shoulder, tears glimmering in her silver eyes. Will you come with us, Mr. Elias? He forced a smile. Always. But deep down, he already knew the truth. Some bridges can only be built from one side. The Eye's final voice rang through the chamber as the ceiling cracked with the sound of the arriving enemy. Lineage protocol engaged. Human core linked. Hybrid link pending. A beam of light enveloped Elias and the machine, merging code, memory, and life into one pulse. Outside the walls, the drones screamed as ancient defenses woke for the first time in centuries. And below, Sura and her daughter watched the tunnels glow with impossible light, a light neither human nor alien, but something new, something alive. The tunnels shook as the first explosions hit. Dust rained from the ceiling, the old metal crying under the pressure of war, returning to its bones. Sura pressed Lyra against her chest, crouching behind a half-collapsed support beam. The hum of the lineage core thundered through the ground like a heartbeat that no longer belonged to flesh. Above the roar, Elias's voice rang out from the platform. Stay down. Once the defense grid powers up, it'll draw every drone to this chamber. Sura shouted back, you'll be crushed with them. He didn't answer. His eyes blazed pale blue, veins of light running across his skin as the Aya's circuits crawled into him. Around him, holographic symbols spun faster, glowing brighter until the air itself hummed. Lyra tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mama, he's turning into light." Sura looked. Elias was kneeling now, surrounded by streams of pure energy linking him to the core. The IS voice filled the air, layered, human and machine together. Integration, 83% complete. Elias gasped, forcing the words out. "How many entrances to this chamber?" "6, all compromised. Seal them." Energy surged outward. Massive metal doors slammed shut across each tunnel with thunderous force. The drones outside screamed against the barriers, their plasma fire scorching metal, but none broke through. For now Sura stood, eyes wide. "You can't hold that much power. It'll kill you." Elias's voice was half his own, half the IS. "Maybe, but if I let go, it kills everyone." The walls glowed brighter, alive with the hum of awakening technology. Holographic screens showed the tunnels above, rows of Corvan guards pushing forward, their armor glinting under harsh light. The AI spoke again, its tone almost serene. "Energy reserves critical. Lineage protocol will collapse unless hybrid link stabilizes human core." Sura frowned. "What does that mean?" "Her," the AI said, turning its flickering gaze toward Lyra. Sura's blood ran cold. "No, her neural pattern completes the network. Without her, he dies, and the defense grid fails." Lyra's voice was small but steady. "Mama, if I touch it, will it help him?" Sura knelt, trembling. "If you touch it, you could disappear. They could take you away, in pieces like before." The child's silver eyes shimmered with tears. "But he saved us twice." Another blast tore through the upper tunnels. Cracks spider-webbed along the ceiling. Molten light dripped from the edges. Sura looked at Elias, his body shaking, every breath a struggle. He looked back at her through the haze. "Sura, let her." "No," she whispered. "You promised you'd come with us." He smiled weakly. "I keep my promises, just not the way you expect." Lyra slipped free of her mother's arms and stepped toward the platform. The energy flared as she approached, recognizing her. The IS voice softened. "Subject 01, connection ready." The child placed her small hand on Elias's glowing arm. A blinding light filled the chamber. Sura shielded her eyes, calling out, "Lyra." When the glare faded, the platform was no longer metal, it was alive. Tendrils of light intertwined Elias and Lyra in a web of golden threads. The machine's hum rose into a low melodic tone. Like two hearts finding the same rhythm, the holograms around the walls changed, no longer cold data, but memories, fields of green, skies of blue. Human cities beside alien forests. Elias's voice echoed, deeper now. "It's working. She's stabilizing the system." Sura stared in awe as the walls pulsed with life. The eye spoke again, but now it sounded almost human. "Synchronization complete. Defensive protocols active." Above, the drones breached the final barrier. But when they poured into the tunnels, they were met by living light. The chamber erupted in a storm of energy, waves of golden plasma that tore through metal and armor alike. Sura watched in disbelief as the walls themselves fought, old human machines guided by something new, something alive. The drones melted, their screams swallowed by light, but amidst the chaos, Elias's body began to fade. The energy that protected them was devouring him. Sura rushed to the platform. "Elias, stop this. You'll burn out." He looked at her, his face calm despite the fire crawling through his veins. "Tell her she did good." Lyra's hand still rested against his chest, her small face glowing with both fear and wonder. "Mr. Elias, it's warm." "It's supposed to be," he whispered. "That warmth. It's home." The light consumed him. His shape dissolved into the golden current, merging completely with the core. The tremors stopped. The noise died. Only silence remained, and the soft heartbeat of the newly awakened world. Sura fell to her knees, pulling Lyra close. Tears ran freely down her face, but the air around them was warm now, not freezing. The old machines hummed gently, a low, steady rhythm like breathing. Then, through the speakers, came a familiar voice, gentle, human, but no longer bound to flesh. "Sura, Lyra, you're safe now." Lyra gasped. "He's still here." Sura looked up at the lights flickering across the walls. "Elias? The core kept me. I'm part of it now. I can shield this place from them. Forever, if I have to." Sura shook her head. "That's not living." "Maybe not," his voice replied softly. "But it's worth it, to know you'll live." The tunnel lights dimmed to a soft glow. The I.S. tone, his tone, lingered like a heartbeat in the background. Sura pressed her forehead to Lyra's. "He saved us again, my star." Lyra whispered, "Will he ever come back?" Sura looked around the chamber, where golden light still pulsed like blood through the metal veins. "He never left." Far above, the storm cleared for the first time in years. The frozen sky of Viral 5 glowed faintly gold, the light of a human heart reborn inside a machine. And deep below, the core whispered one final line, half code, half soul. "Humanity endures, in you." Weeks passed. Maybe months' time had lost meaning inside the tunnels of Viral 5. What once was a tomb of rust and ice had become something else. A refuge filled with light. The machines that once slept now moved gently, like caretakers. Pipes carried warm air through the chambers. Hydrolights glowed over patches of green moss that clung to the walls. The air no longer bit with frost. It smelled faintly of earth. Sura worked quietly near a small hydro generator, repairing one of the air filters. Her hands, once calloused from scavenging and fear, now worked with calm precision. She looked older somehow, but steadier, more grounded. Nearby, little Lyra sat cross-legged beside a glowing conduit, humming softly. The light pulsed to the rhythm of her song. She had grown stronger too. The silvery hue of her eyes shimmered brighter, now alive. Aware. Above them, in the ceiling's woven network of wires, a faint, familiar voice echoed. "Filter line 3's pressure is dropping again, Sura. You'll need to reset the seal." She smiled faintly. "Yes, I can hear you, Elias." "You always could," the voice teased softly, "even through static and metal." His tone carried warmth. Sometimes, when she closed her eyes, she could almost imagine he was standing behind her again, arms crossed, half smile hidden under that tired expression. But he was part of the core, now part of everything around them. His presence filled the air like breath, guiding the old machines, protecting them from the world above. At night, Sura would sit by the central platform where the golden glow still pulsed. It had become like a heartbeat for their new world. Lyra would lie beside her, whispering into the floor. "Good night, Mr. Elias." "Good night, kid," the voice would answer gently through the hum of the core. But beneath that calm, Sura knew the surface wasn't silent. She'd seen faint tremors on the seismic readouts. The core then weren't gone. They'd lost the battle, but not the war. Somewhere above the ice, they were rebuilding. Elias knew it too. "They're testing the atmosphere again," he said one morning. "Scanning for radiation. Looking for us. Can they find us?" "Not yet. The interference field's holding, but it won't last forever. Their new tech isn't bound by the same old signals." Sura exhaled slowly. "Then we keep building." "That's what you always say," he replied with a hint of laughter. "You sound more human every day." She smiled. "Or maybe you're sounding more alien." The lights above them flickered playfully, as if the core itself laughed with him. That evening, Sura noticed Lyra staring at the ceiling. "What is it, my star?" The girl frowned. "He's quiet." Sura looked up. The hum that always filled the tunnels had dimmed, replaced by a low static whisper. "Elias?" She called. No answer. "Elias." She said louder, standing. The walls flickered, then his voice returned, but softer, strained. "Surah, Lyra, I need you to see something." Panels along the wall slid open, revealing a holographic projection of the surface. The icy plains glittered under the twin suns, but this time, there was something new above them. A ship. Massive, elegant, and unfamiliar. Not Corven, not human. Surah's pulse quickened. "Whose vessel is that?" "Unidentified. It's broadcasting on hybrid frequencies." "Hybrid?" She echoed. "Like her." She looked at her daughter. Lyra was staring at the hologram, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "It's singing," she whispered. Elias's voice came through static. "What do you mean, singing?" She pointed at the ship's symbol, a spiral made of light. "It's calling my name." Surah turned to Elias. "Is she right?" "I don't know. The transmission isn't in any language I recognize. But the waveform, it matches her neural signature." Surah felt the blood drain from her face. "They're not enemies, are they?" "No," Elias said slowly. "They're following her." That night, the ship remained in orbit. It didn't fire weapons or send troops. It simply hovered, pulsing with a rhythm that mirrored Lyra's heartbeat. The child couldn't sleep. She stood by the old hatch at the top of the tunnel, staring upward as faint light from the surface filtered down. "Do you think they're like me?" she asked quietly. Surah knelt beside her. Maybe they're what comes next." "If they are," Elias said through the intercom, "then maybe the world's ready for her." Surah shook her head. "The world wasn't ready for you, Elias. It destroyed everything it didn't understand." "And yet here we are," he replied softly. "Alive, building something new." Lyra looked up. "Mr. Elias?" "Yeah, kid? Can I go up there someday?" There was a pause. Then his voice, warm and sad. "Someday you'll have to. That ship isn't here by accident." The next morning, Surah woke to a low rumble, the ground shifting, not from weapons, but from something rising. She ran to the central chamber. The golden core was pulsing wildly. "Elias, what's happening?" "They're sending a signal down, trying to connect." "Connect to what?" "To her." Lyra appeared beside her mother, her small face calm. "They're asking for permission." Surah grabbed her shoulders. "No, it's too dangerous." Lyra's eyes shimmered silver and gold. "They're like me. I can feel it. They want to help." Elias's voice faltered. "Surah, if she accepts, it could stabilize the planet's energy field. It could also change her." Surah hesitated, torn between fear and faith. "Change her how?" "She'd stop being just a child," he said quietly. "She'd become what we built her to be, a bridge for both worlds." The light intensified. Lyra stepped closer to the core. "Double quotes, Mr. Elias," she whispered. "Will you be there?" "Always," he said. She smiled. "Then I'm not afraid." The chamber exploded in light as she touched the core. The energy rippled outward, piercing the rock above, shooting into the sky. On the surface, the ship responded, its hull opening like a blooming flower, releasing a beam of gold and silver that reached back down to her. Surah fell to her knees, shielding her eyes. "Lyra!" Through the blinding glow, she saw her daughter standing unhurt in the center of it all, hair floating, eyes radiant, the air around her alive with color, and above, Elias's voice echoed through every frequency. Soft and proud, humanity wanted to survive. But maybe we were meant to become. When the light faded, the ship was gone. So was Lyra. Only the warmth remained and a single message, etched into the core's surface in glowing letters. "Don't cry. Mama, I'll make the stars warm too." The silence after the light was unbearable. For 3 days, Sura wandered the tunnels of the reborn core, calling her daughter's name. No answer, only the hum of machinery, warm and constant, like a heartbeat missing its soul. The golden glow that once pulsed through the walls was dimmer now, softer, calmer. The machine still worked, keeping her alive. But the voice she longed to hear, Elias's, was silent. She touched the metal wall and whispered, "You promised you'd always be here." A faint shimmer rippled under her hand, like a sigh. But there were no words. Lyra was gone. And the ship that had taken her had vanished into the stars. Sura built a small memorial near the central platform. A ring of melted alloy where Elias had stood formed the base. At its center, she placed a piece of Lyra's shawl, still faintly glowing from the energy burst that carried her away. Every night she sat there, speaking softly to the air. She was only a child, Elias. She should have had years to grow, to play, to laugh. At times she thought she heard him answer tiny fragments of static forming half-words. Warm, safe, proud, but they faded before she could be sure. Outside, the planet itself had begun to change. The eternal snowstorms had slowed. The air at the surface, once poisonous, had started to thin, filling with traces of oxygen. Plants from the tunnels had begun creeping upward through cracks, their roots chasing warmth. Sura realized the truth slowly. Lyra hadn't just left. She had healed the world, weeks past. Sura ventured to the surface again, wearing a breathing mask Elias had designed before he'd merged with the core. The air stung her lungs at first, but she could breathe. The twin suns felt warmer now, the sky tinted faint gold. On the horizon, something new gleamed. A tower dot. At first, she thought it was another mirage, the way heat sometimes fooled the eyes. But as she approached, she saw it clearly. A structure of smooth, living metal rising from the ice. Wrapped in glowing vines. It hadn't been there before. When she touched its base, it vibrated gently, recognizing her. A voice, soft, melodic, neither human nor alien, spoke from within the tower. "Welcome, caretaker Sura. Planetary stabilization, 82%. Sura stepped back, stunned. Who are you?" "We are the Lineage Network. Initiated by Hybrid Protocol 01. Her heart pounded. "Lyra? She guides us from orbit. Her resonance maintains planetary rebirth." Sura's knees weakened. She sank into the snow, laughing and crying at once. "My little star, you kept your promise." That night, under the strange golden sky, Sura camped beside the tower. She watched the auroras dance above her and imagined Lyra among them, glowing, free. Not as a child, but as something vast and beautiful. Then she heard it again, a faint static hum, followed by a voice she hadn't heard in months. "Sura," she froze. "Elias?" "Still here," he said softly. Harder to talk now, the core's becoming part of the planet's structure. "But I can still see you." Tears filled her eyes. "You kept her safe. She kept us safe." "She's not gone, Sura. She's everywhere, sky, soil, stars." Sura smiled through the tears. "You sound proud." "I am." She finished what we started. A pause. Then his voice grew weaker. "But there's more coming. The ship that took her. It wasn't alone." Her chest tightened. "More hybrids? Maybe, or maybe the next generation of whatever she's becoming. I can't hold the scanners long enough to know. But the signal's strong, and it's coming back here." The air trembled slightly, as if agreeing. Sura whispered, "Then I'll be here to welcome them." "Good," he murmured. "She looked for you." Days later, the golden dawn came brighter than ever. Sura stood at the tower's base when the first light streaked through the sky, a ship, smaller than before, sleek and glowing with the same spiral insignia. It descended silently, the air bending around it like water. She raised her hand, not afraid. The ship hovered a few feet above the ground. and from its hull a panel opened. A figure stepped out. It was tall and slender, its features smooth and luminous, neither human nor alien. Its eyes shimmered silver and gold, the same shade as Lyra's. For a long time Sura couldn't breathe. "Lyra?" The being tilted its head, smiling gently. "Mother." Her heart broke and healed in the same instant. She ran forward, tears streaming down her cheeks. But when she tried to touch her, her hand met warm light instead of flesh. Lyra's voice was calm, layered like song. "Don't cry, Mama, I'm here." Sura fell to her knees, laughing through her sobs. "You grew." "I had to," the being said softly. "There are others now. They come from the broken worlds, the ones we saved. But they need a guide." Sura looked up. "Then guide them. You were born to." Lyra reached out, her light forming faint warmth around her mother's shoulders. "Will you stay here?" Sura smiled faintly. "I'll tend to what's left of our old world. It deserves to live too." Lyra nodded. "Then this world will remember you." She turned toward the sky. The ship behind her pulsed once, awaiting her return. Before she ascended, she looked back one last time. "He's still with you, Mama. He watches through every sunrise." And then she was gone, rising toward the clouds, leaving trails of golden mist that glowed even after she vanished. That night, Sura returned to the core. The memorial shimmered softly, and for the first time since the storm, she felt peace. She placed her hand on the glowing metal. "She's home now, Elias." For a moment, silence. Then the faintest whisper answered through the hum of the walls. "So are you." Outside, the planet exhaled a world reborn under a human's compassion, an alien strength, and a child who became light itself. And for the first time in centuries, the frozen winds of Varel 5 carried the sound of laughter instead of war. Years passed on Varel 5. The once frozen planet had changed beyond recognition. The glaciers had receded. Rivers now shimmered beneath twin suns. Forests of pale green crystal leaves grew where only ice had ruled. The world breathed again, alive, awake and warm. Sura had grown older, her hair streaked with silver. Yet her eyes were bright, her movements steady. Every morning she walked the edge of the new lake that had formed near the core, watching the sunlight ripple across the water dot, and every evening she spoke to the sky. Sometimes she still heard answers, in whispers of static or a shimmer in the clouds. Sometimes not. But she always believed they were listening. Elias and her daughter, somewhere among the stars. The return that morning, the horizon flared gold. A shape descended slowly from the heavens, vast and gleaming, yet silent. Not a warship, not a drone, a fleet, sleek vessels bearing both human insignias and the spiral emblem of the hybrids drifted down through the clouds. Their hulls glowed faintly with energy, neither mechanical nor organic, but something beautifully in between. Sura shielded her eyes as one ship landed near the tower that Lyra had built years before. Its ramp lowered, releasing a warm breeze and a familiar hum. She felt it before she saw it. A pulse, like the heartbeat of a child she once held. A figure stepped out, tall, luminous, eyes of gold and silver. Lyra, but she was not alone. Behind her came others, dozens, maybe hundreds. Men and women, human and alien, their features woven together in new harmony. They moved with quiet grace, their faces curious but kind. Sura smiled through tears. "My star." Lyra ran forward and embraced her mother. For the first time, her form solidified, light turning warm and tangible. "You kept the world alive," Lyra whispered. "Just like you promised." Sura cupped her daughter's face. "And you lit the stars." The reunion when they entered the core chamber, the walls came alive again. The old golden light flared brighter, and the voice that had once guided them echoed softly through the air. "Welcome home, Lyra." Elias's voice, Sura gasped, pressing her hand to the wall. Elias, you're still here. Always, he said, his tone steady, warm, ageless. You've done more than I ever imagined. Both of you. Lyra knelt before the core, resting her palm against the glowing surface. You built the foundation. I only carried it upward. Then carry it farther, Elias replied. Because they're coming, not just from your fleets, but from what remains of humanity. I can feel their signals in deep orbit. They've heard the light you sent. Lyra looked up at the ceiling, where faint starlight shimmered through the cracks. Humans? The survivors, Elias said. Generations lost in the void, finally following the warmth home. Sura felt her heart surge with hope. Then maybe it's time both species remember what they truly were, not conquerors or victims, but builders. Exactly, Elias said gently. The lineage wasn't about replacing us. It was about uniting what we forgot to protect. The legacy days turned into weeks as ships from orbit began to land across Varel 5, human. Survivors from deep space colonies stepped onto soil that was warm for the first time in centuries. They looked around with disbelief at the alien forests, the rivers that glowed faintly gold, and the beings who welcomed them, hybrids with voices calm and kind. For the first time since the war, humans and aliens walked side by side without fear. Sura watched from the edge of the new city rising around the core, towers of crystal and steel growing from the earth itself, powered by light that never dimmed. Children played by the lakes, some with violet skin, some with human eyes, some with both. And above it all, two suns shone brighter than ever, their light touching everything equally. The message one night. As the first of the united fleets prepared to travel beyond the system, Sura stood alone in the core chamber. Lyra appeared beside her, radiant in the soft golden glow. They're leaving to rebuild other worlds, Lyra said. Carrying what we learned here. Sura smiled. And you? Will you go with them? Lyra hesitated. Part of me already has. But I'll always return here. She gestured toward the core. He's still watching, you know. Sura nodded. I feel him every dawn. Then, for the first time in years, Elias's voice spoke clearly, not through the walls, but through the air itself, soft as a heartbeat. Sura, Lyra, humanity isn't a species. It's a choice, to keep caring when it's easier to hate, to keep building when the world burns. You both proved it. Sura closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. You taught us that, Elias. No, he whispered. You taught me. The lights dimmed, leaving a soft afterglow that pulsed like a star's heartbeat. The dawn years later, Varel 5 became a beacon for travelers across the galaxy. Pilgrims came to see the twin suns and the golden core that whispered ancient songs. The story spread from world to world, of the human who gave his fire, the alien who gave her faith, and the child who became the bridge between them. They called it the Night of the Blanket, reminder that kindness can ignite a new civilization. Sura passed peacefully beneath the same sky that once tried to kill her, surrounded by descendants of both bloodlines. When she was gone, the core pulsed brighter one last time, carrying her memory into the network where Elias and Lyra waited among the stars. And from that day forward, whenever night fell on Varel 5, two lights always appeared in the heavens, one silver, one gold, circling each other in endless dance. They called them the Father Star and the Child Star, glowing together as the universe finally learned what it meant to be human.